Hello. My name is Yahira Garcia, and I am the Community Engagement and Outreach Specialist graduate employee at the University of Oregon Counseling Services. Welcome to the recorded version of Procrastination and Time Management Workshop. My hope is that you will be able to follow along and engage in this interactive workshop and that you learn some good tips and tricks to keep you on task. Before we start, I should mention that although I do work at University Counseling Services, this workshop does not constitute mental health treatment or therapy. We ask and encourage those who do need additional support to seek out mental health support through our University Counseling Services. You can call us to schedule a same-day appointment at 541-346-3227 or go to counseling.uoregon.edu for more information. So now we're going to get started. And I figured that, a good way that we could start this workshop is, to introduce you as to what procrastination is. What's the definition of it? It's pretty straightforward definition. It's to put something off intentionally and habitually, or, to put off intentionally, doing something that should be done. That doesn't really come to a surprise to me as to, what procrastination is. We maybe have an idea of like, oh yeah, putting something off. Sounds kind of maybe familiar. So I want to pose the question to you to kind of think about, what do you tend to procrastinate on? There's very many things that, one can procrastinate when you're too busy or you're overwhelmed, or maybe, you just don't really have much motivation to get started on something. Procrastination has a lot of different sources as to why it, is what it is. So think about, what are some things you procrastinate on? Okay, have something in mind? Well, here is a quick list of, pretty common things that students in particular, tend to procrastinate. Maybe the first thing, the most salient thing that came up to you or came up for you was maybe your schoolwork, or studying, or maybe your job or work outside of school. There's also your personal health. You can procrastinate on that. You're too busy to maybe think that you could invest an hour or two of your time to go to the doctor's office, for example, to get a checkup. Like, that's one thing people procrastinate on. There's also household chores, and also, personal relationships. These are all different things that people, procrastinate on in one way or another. Now, I have another question for you to think about for a second, and this is, why do you procrastinate? I feel like this question might be a little more difficult to kind of think about, but sit with that for a second. Why do you procrastinate? Have you thought about this before? Can you name any reasons? Well, on this slide now, you see that I have some options or some, reasons as to why people tend to procrastinate. There's like a fear of failure that's associated with procrastinating. Like, what if something isn't perfect? I don't want to get started on something, or, feel overwhelmed and starting something if I feel like maybe I don't have the time now for it to be perfect. And so I don't want to set myself up for maybe failure. There's fear of success. What might happen if I do succeed? This is pretty common. A pretty common way in which this shows up is, let's say you're pretty maybe stretched a little too thin, or getting there, and you're afraid, well, if this goes well, like, what if I'm asked to do more? Like, I'm already overwhelmed, and what if this goes so well, I have to keep going and keep delivering at such a like high caliber of a level, for example. That's a way in which fear of success could show up. There's also fear of losing control. Maybe you feel like turning in a an assignment late is a way for you to kind of maybe push back on arbitrary deadlines, or make you feel like you have a sense of control in this system. That's another way in which procrastination can show up. Some other reasons are here as well. These are common reasons as to why, and different styles that describe as to how people procrastinate. And they might seem a little more familiar than the reasons on this last slide. So I'm going to just walk through these, with you. Like there is the blasé person. This person, tends to procrastinate because they're not really interested in the task. And, why get started on something when I'm just like, I have no interest in it. So, you keep pushing that off. There's also, the molehill into a mountain style where maybe you have the tendency to turn a task into a bigger deal than they are, maybe catastrophizing regarding them, like, oh my gosh, this is so big, so overwhelming, like I'm never going to get this done. And so, that kind of like inhibits you from getting started. There's also, the chilled out type of person who maybe rather have like be out having fun than getting things done. Like, oh, it's the weekend, I can go and have fun on a Saturday, I'll get to work tomorrow. And then maybe you don't tomorrow never comes, you keep like having fun or you keep putting it off and at the end you're just procrastinating and things keep piling up. That's a way, that procrastination, a pretty common way that procrastination shows up. You could also be the worrier, where maybe you're nervous that things will go wrong or that you don't have the necessary skills to do a good job. And maybe, something that coincides with the type of worrying, procrastination style is, imposter syndrome, feeling like maybe you're not good enough or you're missing like necessary skills, or that you're here by mistake, like all these like feelings of like insecurity and anxiety may be contributing to your procrastination. And then the last style that I'm going to mention is the perfectionist, which I kind of alluded to in the last slide of you don't want to do anything unless you can do it flawlessly. And, this is pretty common in that people may not even realize that they're doing it. It's just like, oh, putting this off because, again, an example, maybe you feel like you don't have enough time to devote to make it perfect. So you don't do it at all. And that, is the last reason or style that I'm going to talk about in terms of procrastination. And maybe you identify with one of these, all of these, or none of these. Like there's different many like styles and reasons as to why people procrastinate, and these are just some common ones. So keep that in mind. If maybe you feel like you're a couple of these, none of these, like just that's okay. And we're gonna just keep talking about like tips and tricks to address these specific styles in a bit. So moving on, what are some consequences of your procrastination? Have you ever thought about that? Like what comes of, you know, you procrastinating? Who does that impact? Well, some, pretty common consequences of your procrastination are pretty, straightforward. Like maybe you get lower grades because you miss an assignment, or you maybe don't turn in like as great of a quality of an assignment because you waited till the last minute. Maybe conflict with others if, you're maybe working in a group. Tension with parents if your grades are impacted and your parents are concerned about that. That could cause some tension. There can be some guilt or anxiety or panic regarding your academics, or this habit that you have formed, or all of these things are pretty common feelings and consequences of that can stem from procrastinating. And there are costs for you, or me, as an individual for procrastinating. There's also costs to others that come from our own actions, and some costs to us when we procrastinate. It's again having late assignments, the potential for underachievement, like I feel like I could do better, but I'm not, my grades aren't reflective of my capacity or my ability, because of me procrastinating. Inability to make decisions as to again whether you should get started on something, whether you should not, whether you should complete it, whether where you should put your time and effort. And again, increased anxiety and stress as deadlines approach. Again, the inability of making choices, like, do I get started now, sooner rather than later? Deadlines are approaching, or do you just keep pushing off? And then also, there's health and relationship stress, like stress regarding your health and how your like anxiety and stress is manifesting, and then also how all of this is also impacting your relationships, with either yourself or your friends or your family, or even your colleagues if you're working with anyone. And that kind of leads me onto the next point on this slide of just cost to others. If you are working in a group project, which is, a pretty common thing to be doing in a college setting, cost to others when you procrastinate, it shifts the burden of responsibility onto others. And this could result, in resentment and disappointment of, your colleagues or your friends or your group members. It destroys teamwork. You are putting the responsibility of your, portion of a project on someone else, and that's not very fair. And it, again, as I mentioned before, like puts personal relationships, like puts a strain on personal relationships, again, whether it be, professional relationship, a friendship relationship, or familial relationship, of the consequences of when you procrastinate. So these are just a few little points. Now, I'm wondering if, going through the styles or going through the consequences, you've identified ways in which you tend to procrastination, how your procrastination kind of shows up for you. And thinking about like why you're in this workshop, while you're watching this, what strategies have you used to overcome procrastination? Is this something you've tried to address before? You've tried something and it maybe didn't work, or you did and it has worked? Or are you here to learn some strategies? That's perfectly okay too. I just want you to think about that. Like what have you done, or, what strategies have you used before to overcome procrastination? I mentioned that, we were going to come back and address these specific procrastination styles and ways in which, we could overcome or help, move on from, the burden of procrastination. So for example, the blasé person, you're not really interested in the task. And that, is a big barrier to getting maybe started on something. Well, something that you could do to help you get started is to make the task more interesting. If, let's say, you have a report or an assignment to do for a class and you are able to choose the topic that is interesting or is interesting to you. I think that makes, an assignment so much more enjoyable when you're researching and spending time with something that you find, interesting. Or you could also incorporate something fun, that interests you in it as well. It's the same principle. If you tend to make a molehill into a mountain and, you kind of maybe tend to catastrophize and make a task bigger than it is, then something that you could do is to incorporate stress relieving like tactics into your schedule, like maybe taking breaks, or, having a mindfulness moment, relaxing, taking a bath. Doing these things that kind of reduce your anxiety if you feel, like tackling a project that is stress inducing. Like come at it from that angle, like how do I make myself feel better? How do I lower my anxiety, in the long run while this is happening? Now, if you tend to be a bit more of the chilled out type of person where you'd rather, be having fun than getting your work done, then maybe something that you could do is to remind yourself of why you want to accomplish this task. And that could mean, thinking maybe longer term in terms of, what purpose this task that you're putting off like has for you. Like maybe this is your final grade and this, your grade in the entire course depends on this. And so, you need a good grade to be in good standing or to maybe get a scholarship or to get into grad school or whatever it may be. Like think about those longer term goals and like how this task is going to benefit that. And like, I wouldn't say like necessarily like make it or break it. I don't know if, all of the things you procrastinate on are in that like level, but maybe it does. Maybe you are procrastinating on things that are, that serious, like make it or break it type, tasks. So think about that. Think about like why you want to accomplish the task and, remind yourself why you're here doing what you're doing. And the same thing with, the chilled out thing that you could also do is, also kind of like the blasé person, incorporate elements of fun into your task. If you feel like you want to have fun elsewhere, try to make it fun and interesting while you're working. Next, there is the worrier, where you feel like you don't maybe have the traits or the skills to do a good job on a project. Well, it's kind of similar to the, making the molehill into a mountain type person. Like this comes from a lot of like anxiety. And one way you can combat this type of style of procrastination is remind yourself like of your strengths and of times that you have succeeded. Like keep perspective by looking back at like other jobs or other assignments that you maybe also tended to catastrophize on, and how you survived that. Like maybe, at the end of the day, X assignment wasn't as bad as you thought. So make a list of your strengths and your resilience and things that you've overcome to, remind you of your strengths to keep you, going and give you the ability to and motivation to, start a project or, keep working on a project. And lastly, if you are, a perfectionist, you don't want to do anything unless you do it flawlessly. And one thing that you could, think about if you tend to fall in this style of procrastinating is ask yourself the question of what is worse, not doing something perfectly or never really doing it at all. I think that's really important of just, would I rather try something and, give it my best. It might not be perfect, but it's my best nonetheless, or just not doing it at all. And, hopefully one of these choices will speak to you louder than the other one, and you'll be able to make the decision that like maybe trying it is better than not doing it at all. So those are, some tips based on procrastination styles. Here is another strategy that we're going to talk about. And this strategy is not only addressing procrastination as, a barrier, but it's also helping you manage your time. So let's do this thought exercise together. Hopefully, as through this presentation, you've been thinking about some things that maybe you are currently procrastinating on. And if so, pick one of the items that you are procrastinating on, whatever it may be, or think about something that you need to do before the quarter ends. It could be assignment, it could be, filling something out, it could be cleaning your apartment, it could be, setting up an appointment, whatever it may be. Like just think of something that you need to get done and maybe you've been pushing off. And think about how you can break that down into manageable tasks, more doable tasks. And thinking about this, like, think about like what you will gain from completing, this task or this assignment, and not procrastinating on it. Like, what are the benefits of it? Like, maybe one simple benefit is just like, I can get it off my plate if I, do it now or do it quicker and not, keep putting it off. Like, it'll be off my plate, like out of sight, out of mind, off, like no longer have to think about it. That seems, pretty stress relieving to me, is just to get it off of my plate and, not have to like have it sit there and kind of weigh on me. And again, kind of like similar to some of the previous styles we talked about, like think about why it's important to you. And maybe go a little deeper than just like to pass the course or, to do this or to that. Think about how the experience might help you later. Will you grow from it? How will it help you professionally, personally, things like that. So think about like what the use of, this thing you're putting off will help you in the long run. So I hope that that was helpful to, put it that way. Here are some more tips and tricks that we're going to talk about. And, again, similar to the last tip, it's, addressing procrastination as a barrier, but also, addressing like the time management aspect of, I feel like I don't have enough time. One thing that you could do to kind of build some structure into your schedule or into your day is using a planner and being thorough. You know, Doing this, you could, begin the term or a week or a day by recording, test dates or due dates or, major events. I definitely utilize a planner very frequently. I guess I can have, here's mine. Every the start of every term, I go through all of my syllabi and I do just that. I record throughout the weeks, major events, major due dates, things that I need to get things done. It's like a reminder of just like, X exam is due next week or whatever it may be, so that I know and I'm on top of things and organized. Another thing that you could do within, your planner or maybe your to-do list is to build out blocks of times in order to complete a specific task. So let's say you want to write a paper, you have that to do. Write out a block of time like, oh, I'm going to devote the next, hour and a half to sitting down and writing. And then after that, you can, move on to a different task or you can take a break, whatever it may be. But use, specific time blocks to be like, okay, this is how I'm allocating my time. Like I just mentioned before, building in breaks, that is so, so, so important, to rest your eyes, get outside for a second, take a breather, relax. It's really difficult to be like, go, 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 go. So take a break to take care of yourself, like have lunch, eat a snack, whatever it may be. And with that, I feel like all of these different points are connected, is pay attention to how long you can work without getting distracted. And, if you feel like an hour and a half, I can go without checking my email, without checking my phone, getting on social media, then challenge yourself to go that entire time, like download an app that locks your phone or whatever it may be. Keep on working. And then during your break, you could, check your phone, check your email, check your social media. Try to be as motivated and productive to get whatever you said you would be done in, the specific block of time that you allocated for yourself. Next, there is, more different tips and tricks. This is, one of them, this might be a hard trick to do, but it's practicing saying no. I think it's really, really easy and common for people, to be presented with a lot of different amazing opportunities and wanting to say yes to everything. But, a really great skill to develop is to say no to things when you feel like you're too overwhelmed, when you're maybe too overworked or too, like stretched a little too thin, is, identify your boundaries. That's, the next point is identify your boundaries and keep to them, of like, oh, like I had a student once share with me that Sunday evenings were protected, for me time for them. And if that is something like you tend to do on whatever day, like, and you have an opportunity to maybe have like a club meeting or something on a Sunday evening, be like, is that really something I want to give up? Is this important to me? How much more can I take on without really jeopardizing more of like my like mental health? So think about that. Don't say yes to things out of guilt. Definitely, practice saying no to things. Things will be okay if you do. As I mentioned before, set boundaries and stick with them. That's really, really important. Another trick is, or, tip is to do a task as soon as possible. Like, don't procrastinate. That's the thing. Like, don't put things up, like put things off habitually, until it's too late or you're getting to a deadline. Like, do a task as soon as possible. This one's a little harder for me to do because I'm not typically one who, can do a task immediately, but I'm very, very impressed by the people who can and try it out. It does feel really great when I do, think like, oh, I can do this now instead of putting it off. It does genuinely feel great, to know that is no longer on my plate. Another aspect is to design a good workspace. That could be, your physical environment of having, enough light in your room, in your workspace, having your computer propped up, high enough and sufficiently, having, your favorite candle running, whatever it may be. It could also, have it be the materials that you use. If you have certain pens that you like have those pens around to make, your workspace enjoyable and comfortable. It doesn't just have to be, how it's designed. If it's like less cluttered, like definitely, a more cluttered like physical space, I feel like it's like maybe a more cluttered head. So I like to have things nice and organized, and that always makes me feel better about my workspace and, you know, getting work done. And another, you know, trick is to, or tip is to really show yourself some self-compassion. You can plan all that you want, but life happens. So give yourself some grace and compassion to be flexible with your time and with your goals. You know, if need be. That's also, I think, really important, is that no matter what, like, show yourself some compassion, take a break, set your goals up so that they're adjustable, you know, and just, you know, take care of yourself and give yourself some grace. I think that's very, very important. And a lot of these, you know, tips and tricks that I just shared really encompassed setting up goals for yourself. And some more info on goals specifically are, you know, here in front of you. You know, having your goals be meaningful and desired, something that you want to accomplish, and making them be realistic. Maybe you've heard of SMART goals, you know, and what those mean, setting your goals to be, you know, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. That's a SMART goal. And I think that's a really important way to kind of set up your goals so that you can achieve them. So yeah, just a little bit of information on that. And now, that was basically the bulk of the information regarding no procrastination and time management. And now I do want to review some quick, you know, services that are available to you all as UO students. At University Counseling Services, if you need support for, you know, anything, we have consultations for students or for staff, or for, you know, family members. If you are concerned for a student or anything, you can call the counseling services and get a consultation on how to, you know, maybe help. We do have individual and group therapy for students that is available, and this is all currently done through teletherapy if you are interested. We also have Let's Teletalk, which is a really great way to get face-to-face contact with a therapist. If you want to check in about, you know, an issue. It is a drop-in services, and you can use it as needed. There's no paperwork attached to it. So again, if you just want to check in on something, or you had like a conflict with like a roommate or whatever, and you just need to like talk to a therapist, this is a great way. It's also a good stepping stone to try, you know, starting a conversation with a therapist if you feel like you are more interested in like individual therapy or group therapy. We also do community and campus referrals for students. Let's say if they wanted to have a provider outside of University Counseling Services, we have case managers who can help you navigate that, and insurance and things like that. And then we also have education, prevention, and outreach, which is what you're currently, you know, partaking in right now. So I definitely appreciate that. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to email me at uccoutreachge@uoregon.edu, or you can call the Counseling Center at 541-346-3227. Go on our website at counseling.uoregon.edu, or if you're curious as to where we're located, we're in the Health Counseling and Testing Center building across from Oregon Hall on the 2nd floor. So thank you for logging on and watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.